I came to Joburg with dreams of making it big, of leaving my small town behind and finding success in the city of God. But the truth is, I was running out from my past, from the mistakes I made and the people I had. I thought I could start a fresh year, leave my old self behind, and become someone new. But the city has a way of revealing your true nature. I thought of finding a job, but it was not easy. My skills and my experience, I thought they would speak for me. But day after day, I walked the streets of Joburg, CV in hand, only to be met with rejection and disappointment. I applied to every restaurant, cafe, and bar I could find, but no one wanted to give me a chance. I began to doubt myself, to wonder if I was good enough. But I refused to give up. I kept knocking on the doors, kept applying, kept hoping. And then finally, I got a call from a small restaurant in Braamfontein. They wanted to interview me for a waiting position. I was nervous but determined. I put on my best clothes, practiced my responses, and walked into that interview with my head held up. And then the words I'd been waiting to hear: "You are hired." I started as a waiter, working long hours for low pay, but I didn't care. I was working, I was earning, and I was learning. The restaurant became my family, my colleague, my friends. We worked together, supported each other, and grew together. I learned to balance plates, to multitask, and to make small talk with strangers. I learned to be patient, to be kind, and to be humble. And slowly but sure, I started to rebuild my life. I started to find myself again, to rediscover my passion and my purpose. One day, as I was serving a busy lunch shift, a white guy walked in, his eyes scanning the room as if searching for someone. He looked out of place among the predominantly black crowd, but he didn't seem to notice. I took his order and served him with a smile. And as I did, we struck up a conversation. His name was Alex, and he was a journalist working on a story about the restaurant industry in Joburg. We talked for a while, and I found myself opening up to him. As the days went by, Alec became a regular at the restaurant, always sitting in the same table, always ordering the same meal, and every time we'd talk, sharing stories and experiences and laughter. Despite our differences, race, background, and culture, we clicked. He became my friend, my confidant, and my partner in crime. The next weekend, Alec invited me to dinner at a place in Fourways. I arrived at the address he gave me, expecting a quiet evening with a few friends. But as I walked in, I was taken aback. The house was filled with people, young people, but most of them, they were semi-naked. I felt a surge of discomfort, unsure of what to make of the scene before me. Alec noticed my hesitation and came over to greet me. "Hey man, glad you made it," he said, clapping on my back. I tried to play it cool, but I couldn't help sneaking glances at the scantily clad crowd. There were people lounging on the couches, sipping drinks and laughing. It was like a scene from the movie, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for this. Alec led me to the kitchen where a buffet of food was laid off. We filled our plates and found a spot to sit on, surrounded by the lively crowd. I tried to focus on the conversation, but my eyes kept on wandering. I was clear that this was not a party, not just a dinner gathering. I felt out of place, like an outsider looking in, but Alex seemed to sense my unease and put a hand on my shoulder. "Relax, man," he said. "Just enjoy yourself." I took a deep breath and tried to let go of my inhibitions. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't quite fit in. I was torn between my desire to be open-minded and my discomfort with the rivalry around me. As the night wore on, I couldn't help but notice that most of the people around me were kissing, their bodies intertwined as they sat on couches or stood in corners. Others were even more explicit, having intercourse openly, without any regard of the people around them. But what struck me as even more bizarre was that others continued with their lives as if nothing was happening. They chatted, laughed, and sipped their drinks, seemingly obviously, to the intimate taking place just a few feet away. I felt like I had stumbled into a different world, one where the rules of the society didn't apply. Alex seemed to sense my discomfort and leaned in close. This is how some people express themselves, he whispered. Don't worry about it. But I couldn't help worrying. I'd never seen anything like this before. I felt like a prude, but at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder if this was just a bit too much. As I looked around, I saw that some people were even filming the scenes unfolding before them, their cameras and phones capturing every moment. It was like they were documenting some sort of a social experiment. I turned to Alec, unsure of what to say. Is this normal? I asked, trying to keep my voice down. Alec shrugged. For some people, yeah, it's a different way of living. I nodded, trying to process it all. But as I looked around, I couldn't help but feel like I was stuck in some sort of a surreal dream. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself to just relax and go with the flow. Alec handed me a drink, and I took a sip, feeling the alcohol burn my throat. I wasn't much of a drinker, but I figured why not? When in Rome, right? As the night wore on, I found myself drinking more and more, trying to numb the discomfort that had been building inside me. The music was loud, the lights were flashing, and the people around me were getting more and more rowdy. I started to feel my inhibitions slipping away, my senses dulling. I laughed and jogged with Alec, feeling like I was finally fitting in. But deep down, I knew I was just trying to escape. Before I knew it, I was stumbling around my words, slurring together. Alec was laughing and cheering me on, telling me to let loose, and I did. I let go of all my reservations, all my doubts. I was drunk, really drunk, and I didn't care. The room was spinning, the music was pounding, and I was dancing on the table. I was surrounded by strangers, but I felt like I was part of something, like I belonged. But as the night wore on, I started to feel a creeping sense of dread. What was I doing? What had gotten into? What had I gotten myself into? And then everything went black. When I came back to my senses, I was sitting on a couch, my head throbbing with a dull ache. I looked around, trying to remember where I was and what had happened. Then that's when I saw her. A stunning, beautiful lady, dark in complexion, with piercing brown eyes and a bright smile. She was sitting next to me, her leg touching me. I tried to speak, but my voice was hoarse from the night before. She smiled and handed me a glass of water. Drink this, she said. You need it. I took a sip, feeling the cool liquid soothe my parched throat. As I looked at her, I couldn't help but be struck by her beauty. She was elegant, refined, and radiant. Who are you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm Nala, she replied. And you are? I tried to remember, but my mind was foggy. I'm not sure, I admitted. Nala laughed. Don't worry, you remember. You're just a little hungover. As we talked, I found myself feeling drawn to her. She was intelligent, witty, and charming, and those eyes, those piercing brown eyes, seemed to see right through me. I couldn't believe my luck. Here I was, sitting next to the stunning woman, feeling like I'd known her all of my life. But the conversation flowed. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I didn't know where I was, how I got there, and or what had happened the night before. And then there was the nagging question: who was Nala? Really? As the morning wore on, Nala suggested we leave and go to your place. I agreed, still feeling a bit groggy from the night before. We hailed a taxi and headed to a house which was located in a quiet suburb. As we drove, we chatted and laughed, getting to know each other better. I was amazed by her intelligence, her sense of humor, and her beauty. When we arrived at her house, I was struck by its elegance. It was a beautiful modern house with a stunning garden. We went inside and Nala showed me to the bedroom. I was tired, so I lay down on the bed, feeling grateful for the softness of the mattress. Nala joined me and we talked some more. But as the conversation flowed, our words became softer, more intimate. We started to kiss, and then we were intimate. It was like nothing I had ever experienced before. It was as if our bodies were meant to be together, like we had known each other for years. Afterwards, we slept, wrapped in each other's arms. I felt a sense of peace, contentment that I had never felt before. As I drifted off to sleep, I knew that I found someone special, someone who understood me, someone who connected with me on a deep level. And as I slept, I knew that I would never forget this night, this moment, this woman. I woke up to the sound of the bed chirping outside the window. I stretched, feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. But as I turned to Nala, I noticed something that made my heart skip a bit. Nala was sitting up in bed, her back against the headboard. But it was what she was doing that caught my attention. She was binding her chest, wrapping a bandage around her torso. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was still dreaming. But when I opened them again, I saw the truth. Nala was a man. Or at least she had been a man in a previous life. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at Nala, trying to process what I was saying. Nala saw the look on my face and smiled. I should have told you, she said. I'm sorry. I shook my head, trying to clear it. You are a man, I stammered. Nala nodded. I used to be, but I've transitioned. I'm a woman now. I looked around the room, trying to make sense of everything. That's when I saw it, a photo of Nala, but not as I knew her. In the photo, she was a man, a handsome man with a strong jaw and piercing eyes. I felt like I was living a dream, like nothing was real. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say or do. All I could do was sit there, staring at Nala, trying to understand.